I had a client come to me the other day and they wanted to replicate a site that they had and they were paying over £1,000 a month for just in hosting fees alone. Basically, they wanted to replicate that on Squarespace. My job was to take the website exactly how it was and make that in Squarespace. And with that, obviously, comes the benefits of the site being easily manageable, much cheaper to run, and offering much better overall ownership than having a third party sort of have custody of the entire site. And one thing that I come across whilst I was putting together the site and sort of stripping the source code from the old site was a radial background. And this radial background was so cool, and I thought, I'm going to use this on so many sites. And basically, I want to show you exactly how to do it and how to not only just add it to the back of a section, but how to add it to blocks, how to add it to buttons, and basically anything else you can think of. So we want to add this radial background to various elements on our website. Some of you will want to add it to the background of your text. Some will want to add it to a section background. Some of you might even want to add it to a button. You can really get creative with this. So if we go into edit and we create our section, let's say we want to have a cool image on the side and then we want to have our radial background here. What we would do is I kind of want this text to be white. So let's go for a darker color palette like this. So we've got this set up. Then we want to go into custom CSS. So we want to navigate to design, custom CSS, and create ourselves a couple of lines. And then this is what our code looks like. So it says background, and then we're going to specify a radial gradient. And then we get to specify the percentages, and then at, and then more percentages, then our colors. So you can play around with all of the percentages, you can play around with all of the colors, and you can also play around with the targets. So what we want to do is have a closed curly bracket here, and then dependent on what we're actually targeting, we're going to have something ahead of our curly bracket here. So first things first, I want to target this background specifically. So what we want to do is grab section ID using Squarespace block identifier, click this and copy, and then we want to paste that in there. You'll see that does nothing. So what we need to then do is target the section background itself. So if we do dot section background, you can see the code applies. Personally, I think this looks sick. So it just gives your section background something a little bit cooler than a flat colour. Flat colours have their place. I actually do flat colours on most websites. But if you can integrate some of these gradients, I think it really adds that extra layer to a site. So let's say I play around with the percentages, like so. You can see that radial changes. So we expand that, you can see what I mean. It basically 100% will bring it out as far as it can. And then the lower the percentage, the lower this gradient goes. So put it back to 100, and then we'll change the color. So let's change this to white. You can see it has this huge gradient effect here. And then now we've got the white, we can change the percentage. Let's take it down to 50%. Obviously, it's quite a stark contrast because the original was a shade of green, which blends in a lot more. But we can also then change the RGBA. We can make it more or less opaque. So let's set the opacity to 0.9. And you can see that it lightens up a lot and that white starts to blend in. So you can have a play around with whatever color palette you have available. Let's say you wanted something blue, you could put maybe a dark blue in the bottom and then move towards a lighter blue. Or you could do it vice versa. All you have to do is plug in the color codes and you're good to go. Now let's just go back to our original code and let's say we want to apply it to this button. So let's just save this. We basically do away with this code. We'd go into Google Chrome Developer Tools and we'd find the specific button that we want. So we'd click on this and we'd find the code for a button. So then we go back. Let's say we want to keep it within this section. We'd keep our section identifier. So this basically says only apply this code within this specific section. So then we'd get rid of section background and we'd add in the code for the button. And you can see that it's just confined within that button. And again, I think this looks great. I think it just adds a little bit more life to elements. And you can do this for everything. As long as there's a target, then there's no reason you can't apply it to a block. So let's try it with something else. Let's add something in. If we want, we can make this text have a background like so. We'll hit save. And then the lazy way is just to identify the block itself like this. Get rid of all of this and just paste. And you can see we've got the block like this. And if we want to change the color of this text, we'd click edit, and then we'd go in, we'd highlight our text, and we would hit white. Save that, and then you can see we've got this really cool effect like so. But if we wanted to target, let's say, all text blocks within a section, we'd go back to our section identifier, we'd get rid of the button, and then what we'd do is we'd open up Chrome Developer Tools again, and then we'd hover over our text block. We'd find out what the target is. So it looks to me like this. And then what we do is we go in between there and we paste that. And you can see the code is applied. So this basically says any block with a background enabled within this section has this color. So to put that to the test, let's click edit. Let's add a text block in. Move it over here and let's just say proving Sam's cool code. And then we'd add a background by clicking the pen, toggling background, and let's make sure that text is white. Hit save, and then you can see all text blocks within there have our background. And again, just to prove that it is only within that section, let's add another section like so. And then what we want to do is give this a background, and you can see that that's just standard black and not the radial gradient. So that's how you add a really cool background effect to basically any element on Squarespace. Feel free to play around with it to your heart's content, and hopefully you can put it to great use on your website.